Have you ever finished eating and thought, I wasn't even hungry? Why did I eat this? That moment can feel confusing, frustrating, and often shame-filled. But what if I told you that eating on autopilot is one of the clearest signs that your brain is trying to keep you safe? Today, we're going to talk about the motivational triad wired into our nervous system, why safety often looks like food, and how to start failing forward without ever slipping into proof that something is wrong with you. My name is Dara Tomasson, and this is episode 241, Emotional Eating on Autopilot When You Don't Even Know Why. All right, so welcome to Love Yourself Thin. This podcast is here to help dispel so many of the struggles that we have with weight loss. If you're anything like me and the women I work with, we have tried all the diets and we were really good at it for a while. And then we just got overwhelmed and we couldn't handle it anymore. We gave up and went back to our old habits. But if you want to be like my clients and start creating these successes, then let's go for it. So today's episode is really going to help us understand what's going on. And it's not that you aren't smart enough. It's just that we haven't truly understood how our brain is designed and how we can use it to our advantage instead of always sabotaging. If you're ready to quit all the diets and figure out what this is really about, I'm so glad you're here. Your brain wants to keep you safe. Simple as that. Safety looks like protecting you from what you fear most. Your brain has created shortcuts. So there's neural pathways that bypass your conscious awareness. This is why when we drive, all of a sudden we realize, wait a minute, I'm not going home. I'm going to the store. And you have to stop because you were just on autopilot. So our brain does the same thing. And then when a familiar trigger hits, like stress or boredom or loneliness, your hand reaches for food before your brain even registers what's happening. I've talked about this before, but it is game-changing for me. We are wired in our DNA for three things. It's called the motivational triad. It's what's evolved us as humans. Stay safe. Don't do anything that's too crazy. We want to stay safe. Second one is seek pleasure. So we have to do things that create pleasure. If you're living in a society where it's kind of scary and doesn't feel great, sex actually feels good. So seek pleasure. That's helped us survive. The third one is to avoid pain. If it's too painful, we want to avoid that. That is in our DNA. That is to protect us. What does staying safe look like? It's like someone who wants to create an invention, like a car or an airplane, and they think, okay, well, we have to stay safe, but we also need to take some risks because airplanes is way faster than cars. And that means we don't have to take a big boat. So they were willing to take some risks. So that's just part of our DNA. Stay safe, seek pleasure, avoid pain, which looks like spending a lot of time on the couch, buying a lot of fabric and not cutting it up and making the thing. I once worked with a woman who had a quilt that was 23 years old. She finally got it done, and it was such a victory. It was so amazing. It was all hand pieced too. Like, it was amazing and gorgeous. It was for her daughter's wedding. So let's look at our biggest fears. And I'm going to get really specific, especially women, okay? So being seen as a failure, success, like what if you lose weight and life still isn't perfect? Being visible or attracting unwanted attention. This is something we need to talk more about. One part of weight loss that we don't talk enough about is when you have been sexually molested or mistreated, if you lose weight, you gain more attention. It's just the way it is. Learning what to do with that attention when you get those eyes is going to make a big difference. Abandonment if you change. If you're in a difficult marriage or relationship, I have clients that say, if I lose too much weight, my husband gets really jealous when we go out and guys make comments about their body. So it doesn't feel safe for them to lose weight. Our relationship will change. Disappointing people. How many of us worry about disappointing people? and then being too much or not enough. When we eat food and we're not even hungry, it's because we're wanting some sort of connection. We are wanting to get some sort of emotion, which, as we know, never really gives it to us. We have what's called the tribal connection. We hear about this a lot. We didn't actually understand this as much as we understand it now. But on top of the motivational triad, we are hardwired to stay connected to our tribe. So our community, those around us who will keep us safe and not leave us isolated. I think about my great grandparents. All of my great grandparents came to Alberta and settled in small towns. There are not a lot of people there, and it's cold. In fact, my grandpa would have to come to where I live. They would take a train because their house was so cold in the winter and it wasn't winterized. So they needed to come to Vancouver during the winter because their house couldn't handle the snow. When you live in these small communities and make enemies, you're definitely going to be isolated and not taken care of. Now we have a global community, which is even scarier because we got bad trolls and mean people on the internet. So that can feel really scary too. A lot of us are afraid to say too many different things. We don't want to ruffle too many feathers. It's really challenging because we want to live a full life. I want to say the things that I want to say. But if we live in fear of retaliation, of the trolls, then what does that do? It keeps us more quiet. It doesn't allow us to be authentically who we want to be. Your brain is just doing its job. It's like, don't say too much. Just like a baby who never takes risks to walk, you need to fall as you learn to build those muscles. The fact that you're listening shows me that you need to fail to grow. How do you fail without being a failure? I wrote that down on a piece of paper because I was like, I need to really think about that. How do you fail without being a failure? I talked about it in the last episode about our worth. Our worth is never questioned. Whether you win the game or not, you're still worthy. My son has a game tonight. Whether you won the game or you didn't, what I want is for your best, but you're at best effort. And if your best effort is not as good as others, that's fine. This is about you. So what I want to say now is that now that we understand that we just turn to food subconsciously because we are afraid, we want to stay safe, we want to seek pleasure. That's in our DNA. We also need to move on to being allowed to fail. Failure is how we learn. That's how we learn to tie shoelaces. That's how we learn to do everything. It was trial and error. So now I want you to the answer. So when we say, how do you fail without being a failure? The answer is separate your actions from your identity. You didn't fail. You had a learning experience. Just like when you were learning to quilt, every crooked seam wasn't evidence that you were a failure at quilting. It was just data about tension, speed, and technique. The same is true with emotional eating. I don't know why I'm eating protocol. First step is to pause. Put the food down for 60 seconds and say, oh, why did I do that? What was it that had me looking at the food? Just give yourself that moment, 60 seconds. Then the second part of the I don't know why I'm eating protocol is ask, like, what was I just thinking about? Even if it seems unrelated, your mind might have been on something that triggered a feeling. What made me want to avoid my thoughts, which created an emotional response? So the third thing we need to do is just name it. What feeling am I trying to avoid right now? Use that emotional wheel. Remember, we talked about this emotional wheel to look at what am I feeling? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling bad? Am I feeling angry, disgusted, sad, fearful, surprised? Then the next step is to choose. Do I want to eat this consciously or do I want to process this feeling? Now you're the driver. Now you're in your CEO brain. And then the fifth step is permission. Either choice is valid, but unconscious eating keeps you stuck. Conscious eating gives you information and power. When you practice this protocol, you start to see your patterns. You'll notice, oh, every time I get a text from my sister, I end up in the kitchen. That's not random. That's data. I wanted to share a story about my nephew. We were on a family vacation and I remember him saying, why am I eating right now? I'm not even hungry. And it was fascinating because there is so much body shaming going on in this world. Okay. There's research that shows girls in grade 3 they start having this, they start diets. And sometimes it even starts earlier. I remember thinking, I want to talk to him about this, but it felt so taboo that we don't talk about the elephant in the room. We have different family members that struggle with their weight, siblings, aunts, and uncles. I remember a lot of conversations around the dinner table of people eating dessert and being like, whoa, 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 I probably shouldn't eat this, but it just looks so good. A minute on the lips and a lifetime on the hips. I heard comments like that all the time growing up. It made me afraid of food. It made me afraid of my body. There was a lot of judgment and value on food and how you take care of yourself. If you eat more than you need, then guilty pleasure. At least I don't gamble, or at least I don't drink. These are really unhealthy patterns and unhealthy ways of thinking. As we have looked at emotional eating in the month of February, I want to help you build your emotional intelligence. Because if my nephew understood, oh, I'm just feeling kind of unsettled and uncomfortable because I like being on vacation with my cousins, but I kind of miss my routine at home. So I just go and get some food to distract me. Imagine what difference that would make to him saying, oh, yeah, it's okay to feel uncomfortable in your body, but that toast is not going to settle. It's not going to change anything. In fact, it's going to just spike your insulin and just make things worse. And he does struggle with his weight and his relationship with his emotions, just like I do. And so many of us. The more we can be aware of it, just like I say, the 5 steps. So the first step is pause, like put that food down and say, like, why am I taking this toast at night? Then ask yourself, what was I thinking about before I did that? Is that related? Name it. What am I feeling? What feeling am I trying to avoid right now? And then choose, do I want to eat this consciously? Do I want the side effects of what happens when I eat this? I can either eat it now and I just know that this is going to be some consequences, or I can just put it down. We've covered 4 weeks of emotional eating patterns: stressed, lonely, bored, autopilot. These skills changed my life and helped me lose over 55 pounds without a diet plan. If you want to go deeper, I'm offering an emotional eating mini class where we'll practice these protocols together. The link is in the show notes, and I can't wait to see what becomes possible for you. If this episode has resonated with you, I want you to think about your next step. Knowledge is power, but we have to start acting. One of the things I heard once is that you really have learned if you've changed behavior. My invitation to you is to change your behavior, whether it's coming on a consult call with me, whether it's coming into my emotional eating class and showing up for the office hours, or taking the big leap to being in my program, getting all the tools you need and being a part of this incredible community. I want you to change your behavior, because if you don't, that means you haven't learned and you don't grow. For a human to do well is for a human to be always growing. So that is my invitation to you. Please do not think that you are past the point of no return. Please stop beating yourself up for whatever choices you've made. Please give yourself compassion and understanding, just like you would a child or a grandchild. Please start taking care of yourself. That is why my program is called Love Yourself. Love yourself so much that you are finally prioritizing your health. This is not about body shaming. This is about having a life that feels liberating, exciting, and energizing. I can't wait to see what decision you choose.